Let's move on to the Browns. I feel like I've been questioning more of your rankings today than I have the last few episodes.
And I like it. It's good. It's good discourse.
All right. Let's see. Well, it's going to happen again. Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield, 326 out of 500 for almost 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, 10 picks. Good enough for 23 on your big board, all the way down at 27 on your projections board. I can't believe I'm in the position of defending Baker Mayfield, who you just were so insufferable about when he was being drafted, and I was completely against him. The sad thing is that I was against him for a guy who ended up sucking just as bad, so I have like really no ground to stand on. But I think you're low on this guy. I think that the Browns are – God, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think they're going to be better than people think, and some people think they're going to be really good.
Yeah. And this isn't me saying I think Baker's bad or that the Browns are bad. In fact, it's actually the opposite. I think the Browns are going to be very, very good this year, and that's going to lead to when we get to Nick Chubb in a little bit here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
My numbers are quite high for Nick Chubb, and that's me saying I think Baker does enough to keep them winning games, keep the scripts positive so that they can just continue. That's what Stefanski is going to want to do. If you look over here at the play sheet, right around 50-50 rush pass split. 505 rush attempts to 510 pass attempts, one of the smallest aerial pies in the league and one of the largest ground pies. And I think that's going to make Baker one of those classic better in real life, not so good in fantasy. I think the guy is talented. He showed some really good steps last year. He'll have some good days where the play action is really well established and he hits Odell deep and the weapons are certainly there. Donovan Peoples-Jones showing out in practice gives him only one more weapon that's dangerous on the outside. So I like everything around him. I love this team and this offense, but I think that actually hurts Baker from a fantasy perspective because they're going to have positive game scripts. They're going to ride that horse, Nick Chubb, and bludgeon teams as they have the lead with this improved defense to keep them in better spots. So that's where it comes against Baker is I just see no real upside fantasy-wise on a team that's going to want to run as much as they possibly allowed. And with an improved defense, I think they're going to be allowed to run as much as they want almost every given week.
All right, that's a good argument. Let's talk about the running backs instead of going right to the receivers like we did for the last two, because I had to do a double take. Remember earlier, I think it was our first episode of this series, I was like, wow, you got Rashad Penny with 9 touchdowns. And you were like, no, I don't. And you looked and you did. I did a double take on this one. Here's Chubb's line. You got 283 rushes, over 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns on the ground.
I bumped it down to 14 today.
Oh, you did?
17 was a little bit ambitious, but I don't know if it's that ambitious. I got a little scared when I looked today and saw 17. I was like, oh, that's kind of fucking nuts. But then I thought about it, Nat, and you know what? I'm going to go back to 17. I'm being a little bitch. I'm not going to hedge. Right. I'm going to go back. I think that was at 8% touchdown rate. So here's why, Nat. He had 12 touchdowns in 12 games, not 23 touchdowns. That's too many there. He had 12 touchdowns in 12 games last year. So that would be on pace for 16. A touchdown a game, 17 games played this season. Very realistic. But the fact that I think this defense is going to be even better this year, giving him more chances. It seemed like to me, too, they were a little cute at the stripe early in the year before Chubb got hurt. Then down the stretch, they finally, when Chubb got healthy again and came back, there was definitely a different split between him and Hunt. It was not that 1-2, 1A, 1B. It was clearly, if we're running the ball, it's got to be Nick Chubb. If we're in the red zone, it's going to be Nick Chubb. And all he did was continue to rack up the yards and touchdowns. He had 20 or more points in like all but 2 games in his last 6 contests. It was incredible. And I think that's just going to continue to be their identity with an improved defense. And that's the thing with Chubb is a lot of people are down on him in the industry saying, everything needs to go perfect for him. Yeah, especially because of PPR. He doesn't catch the ball a lot, and I get that. He's not going to have a ton of catches. That's going to go to Kareem Hunt significantly more. But even still, everything has to go perfect for Nick Chubb for the season to be great. Well, when you have talent as good as this, again, as everybody always has the best pure runner in the NFL, I agree with that. When you have talent like that, things tend to go perfectly for him. I think the defense is improved. I think the line is the best in the league, certainly at run blocking. They return all 5 starters. Chubb's going to steamroll all year, and anybody trying to get too cute and say, oh, because he doesn't catch the ball, I don't want him. Fine. Give him to me all day. He was the PPR 7, the running back 7 in PPR points per game last year. All day. I'll take that every single time, even if he's not catching the ball.
Derrick Henry doesn't really catch the ball either.
Right, and that's what they always say. I don't want Henry. I don't want Chubb. They don't catch the ball. That's too steamroll.
As a guy who had Henry last year and was just in a perpetual state of arousal all season because I had him, it was pretty nice.
Yeah, he's gonna steamroll, and Hunt obviously behind him, still a good healthy 177 carries. There's gonna be plenty of ground pie for him to have as carved out role. I think I might be a little bit low on his receiving here. 51 targets, 39 catches. I think those need to be bumped up to about 50 catches and 70 or so targets. So I'll do that a little bit. Just one of those guys that I'm not excited to draft. Like at that point where he goes, I'd rather take a stab at Mike Davis, a true potential 3-down back. Obviously not James Robinson anymore, but Chase Edmonds maybe in that range. Damian Harris, now that Sony's gone. There's just guys with more ceiling. He's a nice floor pick, especially in PPR leagues. But I'm always in a ceiling chaser, so I won't own a lot of Kareem Hunt here. And the reason, too, in addition to that, last year I was all in because it was like the ultimate handcuff with benefits. You got a guy who's getting you points, but then if something happens to Chubb, he's going to be a monster. Well, he just wasn't that great as the feature guy. He was okay. I still think he's a great back, but he never really lit the world on fire like I expected him to be. I thought he was going to be top 3 every single week, and he just was okay. And that kind of lowered the ceiling to me. It's no longer like the ultimate handcuff with benefits. It's like, okay, if Chubb goes down, he's pretty good. He's mediocre. He's a little bit better than he was doing, but he's not significantly better. And that's why I'm a little bit lower on Hunt this year than I was last year.
Just to be clear, Chubb's numbers, 6 on your projection board, 7 on the big board. Kareem Hunt, 30 projection-wise. You like him a little more, actually. 24 on the big board. Seems a little bit high to me, but I understand why you got him there. Yeah. Let's talk about Browns receivers. I've only got stats for 2. If you want to talk about Peoples-Jones, that's fine.
And OBJ, I do, so we'll get there after.
All right, so you can throw him in at the end there. OBJ, 61 catches, 848, 7 touchdowns on 107 targets. How the mighty have fallen. Jarvis Landry, 73 catches, 840 yards, 4 touchdowns on 112 targets. You've got OBJ 41 on your projection board. Landry, you've got 50 on your projection board. You like them both on the big board more. OBJ with a pretty wild discrepancy. You actually like him as your wide receiver 26 on the big board, 15 spots higher than projection-wise. Landry, you like 41, 9 spots higher.
Yeah, I need to, and part of that is I probably need to adjust the big board. Those are some of the ones where it's like, you know what? The projections, I actually am more aligned with my projections than what my gut was telling me on the big board. It does go to represent the ceiling that Beckham has. I still think he's only 28. He was just a couple seasons ago the guy you wanted in fantasy, the number 1 dynasty receiver.
The guy that Jimmy wanted. I never wanted him.
You never wanted him, and I'll give you that. You were always off him, but I always wanted him. As a rookie, this guy won me my league. I've always had a soft spot for him because of that, but this just isn't the best of offenses for significant and consistent receiver production. Both of those guys, especially Beckham and Landry, will be great real-life players, kind of similar to what I feel with Baker Mayfield. I just don't think there's going to be enough volume on a week-to-week basis. Okay. There is the scenario that the Browns just have this juggernaut offense and go nuts in Stefanski's year 2, and there's 2,000-yard receivers, and Chubb's still doing the thing I'm projecting. I don't think that's the case because that's just that's not Baker to me. I don't think he's going to sling it nearly enough to sustain that. It's tough, though, because I love the players. I think Beckham and Landry are so good at what they do in their respective roles. I just don't know that we'll ever get steady, consistent, dependable fantasy points from either one of them. But comments, please let me know. What do you think of this receiving core? This is one of the hardest offenses for me to project beyond just Nick Chubb steamrolling everybody.
All right, we'll talk about Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, everybody in camp is raving about this guy, the next superstar, the player of camp. Insane hype is coming on this guy. And we know Beckham has his pretty littered injury history there. If he becomes, they're already saying he's worked his way in as a starter in 3 receiver sets over Rashard Higgins. Guy averaged 17 yards a target last year and pretty efficient despite being the deep threat. You only saw, I think, about 25 targets and hauled in nearly 70% of them. He's a player. He can get down the field with the best of them. Great scorer. I've seen this preseason. He's made so many high-degree difficulty catches from toe taps on the sideline, diving across the middle of the field, and, of course, getting deep, what he does best. The guy is a player. It's a crowded core and a low aerial pie, so I don't think you're going to get steady numbers. But I always refer to those best ball drafts, your last pick at pick 18, 17, this guy's going to have some weeks where he has 18 to 20 points. I don't know that you'll ever be able to depend on that in a regular seasonal format, but in best ball, I guarantee you he'll be in some of your lineups.
All right, and just keeping with the tradition for the last two teams we've done, there's not really much to say about the tight end position. Austin Hooper, there he is, 41 catches, 410 yards, 4 touchdowns on 61 targets, 26 on your projection board, 19 on your big board. So
yeah, that's about it. I mean, there's nothing really to say to him. They have said that the coach did come out and say we want to evolve his role in year 2. We can use him more creatively. We can use him better. Again, the case against, if I'm making a case against Beckham, a low aerial pie and a lot of mouths to feed, well, that's not going to help Austin Hooper of all people. No. And Harrison Bryant is backup. I really like. I think Bryant's a great player too. So you got a cheese nibbling situation between two pretty good players, but a low volume attack when they're 4th, 5th on the target totem pole at best. I'm not going into that one at all.
Remember when we were briefly excited about David Njoku? Yeah. Where'd he go?
I think he's still with the Browns, actually.
Oh, God. He's just like
freak athlete.
He's fallen to like 4 on the tight end draft depth chart.
Exactly, right.
Jesus. Okay.
And it's crazy because you look here too, as I'm looking at the holistic numbers, like I'm projecting Landry and Beckham 22, 21% market share. Like that's a good, healthy portion of targets, but it only amounts to 112 and 107 because of the low volume. And that's why it's just one of those attacks I'm not going to be all in on. I probably need to relook at my big board now. I'm glad you pointed that out, the big discrepancy. That's one where it's like, yeah, I actually do feel closer to these projections than I do the rankings.
I think with OBJ, you're still reflexively chasing some huge ceiling that possibly doesn't exist anymore, whether it's because of talent or because of the circumstances he's in or both.
I think he's still got the talent, but yeah, I think you're right. Like I'm just chasing the OBJ of yesteryear with that what we used to see, and I just don't think we're ever going to see that again. At least not in Cleveland. He needs more passing volume than what he's ever going to see.
You said he won you a title as a rookie, and you're always chasing that first buzz.
It is, right? You always want to go back to those guys that have done it for you. Like,
absolutely.
That's how
I chased Jamal Charles for like 3 years after it was pointless to do so.
That 1 year he had with the Chiefs, though. Oh my God.
He was so amazing. He was so amazing.
What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.